The crash. The Academy transport ship, Stellar Promise, shuddered violently as it broke through the atmosphere of Xerion 7. Inside the passenger bay, 23 alien cadets from various species gripped their safety harnesses as the vessel spun out of control. The pilot's voice crackled through the communication system, speaking in panicked galactic standard. "All passengers prepare for emergency landing. Repeat, emergency landing imminent." Zixtha, a tall, blue-skinned Altarian with 4 arms, watched through the viewport as the desert landscape rushed toward them. Her large black eyes reflected fear as she turned to her companion Grok, a heavily built Thurian whose rocky skin provided natural armor but little comfort during a crash. "The navigation systems failed completely," Grok rumbled in his deep voice. "We're going down in the middle of the burning wastes." Seated across from them, Marcus Chen, the only human aboard the vessel, remained surprisingly calm. The 20-year-old cadet from Earth had been selected for the prestigious Galactic Defense Academy, despite his species being relatively new to the interstellar community. While other cadets panicked, Marcus studied the terrain below with analytical eyes. The ship struck the ground with tremendous force, skidding across the sandy dunes, before coming to rest against a large rock formation. Emergency lights bathed the passenger bay in red as the cadets slowly freed themselves from their harnesses. Several aliens suffered minor injuries, but everyone had survived the initial impact. Cadet Commander Veltar, an insectoid Vespian with translucent wings, immediately took charge. His mandibles clicked nervously as he addressed the group. "Status report. Is anyone seriously injured?" The cadets called out their conditions. Most had suffered bruises and cuts, but nothing life-threatening. However, their situation became clear when the ship's computer announced the extent of the damage. "Primary engines offline. Communication array destroyed. Life support systems functioning at 30% capacity. Estimated breathable atmosphere remaining 48 hours. Zixtha's skin turned a deeper shade of blue, indicating extreme stress. 48 hours? The nearest inhabited system is 6 days away, even with a functioning ship. "The distress beacon," suggested Krath, a tentacled cephaloid whose species was known for their problem-solving abilities. "Perhaps rescue ships will detect our signal." Veltar's wings buzzed pessimistically. "The beacon requires the main communication array. It was destroyed in the crash." Marcus stepped forward, his brown eyes scanning the group. While other species in the Academy often overlooked humans due to their recent entry into galactic society, Marcus had earned respect through consistent performance in survival training exercises. "We need to assess our resources and establish a base camp," Marcus said calmly. "The ship's hull is compromised, but the passenger bay might provide temporary shelter." Grok's gravelly voice expressed doubt. "Human Marcus, this planet has surface temperatures exceeding 50 degrees Celsius during the day and dropping below freezing at night. Our species are adapted to controlled environments. We lack the biological advantages needed for desert survival." "That's exactly why we need to work together," Marcus replied. "Each of our species has different strengths. Veltar, your compound eyes can detect water sources that others might miss. Krath, your tentacles can reach into spaces the rest of us cannot access. Grok, your strength allows you to move heavy materials." Zixtha nodded slowly. "And what advantage do humans provide in this situation?" Marcus smiled grimly. "Humans have a long history of survival in hostile environments. We're generalists. We adapt." The group spent the first few hours taking inventory of their supplies. The ship's emergency rations would last perhaps 5 days if carefully rationed among 23 individuals. They had basic medical supplies, a few tools, and various personal belongings. Most critically, they had only enough water for 3 days. As the alien sun reached its peak, the temperature inside the damaged ship became unbearable. Several cadets with thick fur or specialized skin began showing signs of heat exhaustion. The Vespians, in particular, struggled as their homeworld was significantly cooler than Zarian 7. "We cannot remain inside," Veltar announced, his wings hanging limply in the heat. "But the external temperature will be fatal within hours." Panic began to set in among the group. Species that had evolved on different worlds found themselves completely unprepared for the harsh desert conditions. Some cadets sat in resigned silence while others paced frantically despite the growing heat. Marcus observed the growing desperation and made a decision. "I'm going outside to scout for resources." "Are you insane?" Zixtha exclaimed. "The temperature readings show 52 degrees Celsius. Your soft human skin will burn within minutes." "Humans evolved on a planet with diverse climates," Marcus explained, removing his academy jacket and tearing strips from his undershirt. "Our species survived ice ages and droughts. We learned to use whatever materials were available." He wrapped the fabric strips around his head and arms, creating makeshift protection from the sun. The other cadets watched in fascination as Marcus prepared for what seemed like a suicidal venture into the burning landscape. "I'll be back before sunset," Marcus promised. "Stay hydrated and try to rest." Marcus stepped outside into the overwhelming heat. The sun felt like a physical weight pressing down on him, and the sand radiated warmth through his boots. However, years of camping and survival training on Earth had taught him techniques that most alien species had never needed to develop. He moved carefully across the landscape, staying close to rock formations that provided occasional shade. His human vision, while not as specialized as some alien species, was well adapted for pattern recognition. He searched for signs of life or moisture in the seemingly barren environment. After 2 hours of exploration, Marcus discovered something that made him smile. A cluster of large, barrel-shaped plants grew in the shadow of a canyon wall. To most aliens, they would appear to be simple desert vegetation, but Marcus recognized them as similar to the cacti from Earth's deserts. Using a sharp piece of metal from the ship's wreckage, Marcus carefully cut into one of the plants. Clear, slightly sweet liquid began to flow from the wound. He cupped his hands and tasted it cautiously. While not as pure as their remaining water supply, the plant juice would help extend their survival time. Near the cacti, Marcus also found something else valuable: the bleached bones of some large desert creature, long dead but still structurally sound. The bones were hollow and lightweight, perfect for construction. As the sun began to set, Marcus returned to the ship carrying samples of the plant material and several useful bones. The temperature had dropped significantly, and the cadets had managed to survive their first day. "You found water?" Krath asked hopefully, examining the liquid Marcus had collected. "Not exactly water, but it's hydrating," Marcus explained. "More importantly, I found building materials. Tomorrow, we're going to construct a proper shelter." Veltar looked skeptical. "Building materials? I saw only plants and old bones." Marcus grinned. "Trust me, humans have been making shelter from whatever nature provides for thousands of years. Those plants and bones are going to save our lives." As night fell and the temperature plummeted, the cadets huddled together in the damaged ship. Despite their dire situation, Marcus's confidence and his discovery of resources had given them hope. They had survived their first day, and tomorrow would bring new challenges. The alien cadets looked at their human companion with new respect. While they possessed advanced technology and sophisticated civilizations, none of their species had developed the primitive survival skills that humans took for granted. In this harsh desert environment, Marcus's ancestral knowledge might be the key to keeping them all alive. Outside, the desert wind howled across the dunes, and strange creatures called out in the darkness. The real test of survival was just beginning. The construction dawn broke over the crashed ship with temperatures already climbing rapidly. Marcus woke before the others. His internal clock adjusted to Earth's natural rhythms, giving him an advantage in this alien environment. While his fellow cadets still slept, he quietly gathered tools and prepared for the day's work. The human's movement stirred Zixtha, whose Altarian physiology required less sleep than most species. Her 4 arms stretched as she observed Marcus organizing materials with methodical precision. "You're awake early," she whispered, trying not to wake the others. "Humans are most productive during the cooler morning hours," Marcus explained softly. "We need to work fast before the heat becomes unbearable." As the other cadets gradually awakened, Marcus outlined his plan. "We're going to build a shelter using the cacti and bones I found yesterday. The key is understanding how these materials can work together." Grok stretched his massive frame and examined the bone samples Marcus had brought back. "These are hollow. They appear fragile." "Actually, they're incredibly strong," Marcus corrected. "Hollow bones are lightweight but maintain structural integrity. Birds on Earth use the same principle for flight. These can serve as our framework." Veltar's compound eyes studied the plant samples with scientific interest. "The cellular structure of these organisms suggests high water content. But how does this help with construction?" Marcus broke open a section of cactus flesh, revealing the fibrous interior. "The outer skin is tough and waterproof. The inner flesh holds moisture. The fibers can be woven together. Humans learned long ago that nature provides everything needed for survival if you know how to use it." The group ventured outside in the early morning coolness, following Marcus toward the site he had selected for their shelter. He had chosen a location between 2 large rock formations that would provide natural windbreaks and shade during the hottest parts of the day. "First, we need to harvest materials systematically," Marcus instructed. "Krath, your tentacles can reach inside the cactus plants to extract the water without wasting it. Grok, I need you to help move the larger bones into position." As the cadets began working under Marcus's guidance, they discovered that the humans' approach to construction was unlike anything taught in their advanced engineering courses. Instead of complex calculations and technical specifications, Marcus relied on intuitive understanding of materials and environmental factors. "Human engineering is crude compared to our technologies," Veltar observed, not unkindly. "Yet it appears effective." "Crude, but reliable," Marcus agreed, helping to position a long thigh bone as a primary support beam. "When you don't have access to advanced materials, you learn to maximize what nature provides." Zixtha proved surprisingly helpful, her 4 arms allowing her to weave cactus fibers into rope-like cords while simultaneously holding bones in place. "This is actually quite fascinating," she admitted. "Altarian construction focuses on metal and synthetic composites. I never considered organic materials could be structural." The morning progressed with steady work as the temperature climbed. Marcus taught the aliens techniques that seemed primitive, but proved remarkably effective. They learned to strip cactus skin in large sheets, creating waterproof panels. The fibrous interior was separated into strong threads that could bind the bone framework together. "The beauty of this system," Marcus explained while demonstrating a lashing technique, "is that every part serves multiple purposes. The bones provide structure and can channel airflow for cooling. The cactus skin repels water and reflects heat. The fibers hold everything together and can be rewoven if damaged." As the sun reached its peak intensity, the basic framework of their shelter was complete. The structure resembled a dome-like dwelling with multiple chambers connected by tunnels made from larger bones. The design allowed air to circulate while providing protection from both heat and cold. However, their progress was interrupted by a new challenge. Krath's tentacles began to show signs of severe dehydration, turning a darker color and losing flexibility. Several other cadets were also struggling with fluid loss. "We need more water," Veltar announced, his wings hanging listlessly in the heat. "The cactus juice helps, but it's not sufficient." Marcus examined their remaining water supplies and made quick calculations. We can survive another day, maybe two if we're careful, but we need a more sustainable solution. What do humans do when water is scarce? Zixtha asked. Marcus considered the question. We dig for it, collect it, or create it. Desert peoples on Earth developed techniques for extracting moisture from air, condensing dew, and finding underground sources. The bones we're using for construction, Grok rumbled thoughtfully. Could they serve another purpose? Marcus's eyes lit up with understanding. Exactly. We can create a solar still using the larger hollow bones as condensation chambers. During the day, we trap heated air inside the cactus flesh. At night, the temperature difference will cause water vapor to condense inside the bones. The afternoon was spent modifying their shelter design to incorporate water collection systems. Marcus showed them how to arrange cactus flesh inside hollow bones so that solar heating would extract moisture, which would then condense on the cooler bone surfaces during the night. This is ingenious, admitted a crystalline cadet named Shimra, whose species typically relied on advanced filtration technology. You're using the natural temperature cycle to create a distillation process. Humans have been doing this for thousands of years, Marcus replied. Sometimes the old ways are the most reliable. As evening approached, their shelter took final shape. The dome structure provided multiple chambers for different functions, sleeping areas, storage space, and a central workshop where they could continue improving their survival equipment. The bone framework supported cactus skin walls that would protect them from temperature extremes. The water collection system was integrated throughout the structure, with hollow bones serving as both structural supports and condensation chambers. Marcus estimated they could collect enough moisture to extend their survival time indefinitely, assuming the system worked as planned. That night, the cadets experienced their first comfortable rest since the crash. The shelter maintained a stable temperature, while outside the desert grew bitterly cold. The sound of wind through the bone framework created a gentle humming that was oddly soothing. I must admit, Veltar said as the group settled in for the night, I initially doubted human capabilities in survival situations. Your species seemed too soft, too dependent on technology. Marcus smiled in the darkness. Every species has its advantages. Humans just happen to be good at adapting to difficult circumstances. We've had to be. Where did humans learn these skills? Asked Zixtha. Your planet must be unusually hostile. Earth has every type of environment you can imagine, Marcus explained. Frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, high mountains. Humans spread across all of them and learned to survive in each one. We became generalists out of necessity. Krath's tentacles had regained some of their color and flexibility thanks to the additional moisture they had collected. Most species specialize for their home environment. Humans seem to specialize in adaptation itself. That's exactly right, Marcus agreed. We're not the strongest or the fastest or the smartest, but we're probably the most adaptable. As the second night in the desert passed peacefully, the cadets began to understand why humans had earned their place in the Galactic Defense Academy despite being newcomers to interstellar society. While alien species excelled in their specialized areas, humans possessed a unique combination of creativity, adaptability, and determination that made them valuable allies in any situation. Outside their cactus and bone shelter, the desert continued its ancient cycles of heat and cold, but inside, 23 cadets from across the galaxy rested comfortably, protected by human ingenuity and the resourcefulness that had carried Marcus's species from primitive caves to the stars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but they were no longer simply surviving. They were learning to thrive. The rescue. 5 days after the crash, the cadets had transformed from desperate survivors into a functioning community. Their cactus and bone settlement had grown beyond the original shelter into a complex of interconnected structures. Marcus's water collection system was producing enough moisture to keep everyone hydrated, and they had developed efficient techniques for harvesting food from the desert ecosystem. The morning of the 6th day brought an unexpected sound that made everyone freeze in their activities. A low, humming noise echoed across the desert landscape, growing steadily louder. "Engines," Veltar announced, his compound eyes scanning the horizon. "Someone is coming." Zixtha's 4 arms worked quickly to gather their makeshift signal mirror, a polished piece of metal from the crashed ship that Marcus had taught them to use for long-distance communication. "Should we signal them?" Marcus held up a hand for caution. "Let's identify them first. Not everyone who travels through desert regions has good intentions." The sound grew louder until a sleek spacecraft appeared over the dunes. It was clearly a rescue vessel, bearing the insignia of the Galactic Defense Academy. The ship circled their location twice before landing in a cloud of sand and wind. The rescue team that emerged was led by Commander Thexvar, a veteran Altarian officer with distinguished service markings. His expression showed relief at finding survivors, but quickly changed to puzzlement as he observed their settlement. "Cadets, I am Commander Thexvar of the Academy Search and Rescue Division," he announced formally. "Are you all in good health?" "Yes, sir," Veltar responded, snapping to attention despite his makeshift clothing. "All 23 crew members survived the crash with no serious injuries." The commander's tactical scanner swept across their camp, analyzing the structures with scientific precision. "Fascinating. These dwellings show sophisticated engineering principles. Did your crashed vessel contain construction equipment?" "No, sir." Marcus stepped forward. "We built everything using materials we found in the local environment." Commander Thexvar's expression showed disbelief. "Impossible. Our environmental scans indicate this region contains no suitable construction materials. The Academy's survival manual specifically classifies the burning wastes as unsurvivable without technological support." Grok gestured toward their thriving settlement. "Perhaps the Academy manual requires updating, sir." The rescue team began examining the cactus and bone structures with growing amazement. Dr. Silwyn, the team's xenobiologist, ran detailed scans on the water collection system. "Commander," she reported, "this condensation system is extracting approximately 15 liters of water daily from atmospheric moisture. The efficiency rating exceeds our standard emergency equipment." "How is this possible?" Commander Thexvar demanded. "What technology are you using?" Marcus exchanged glances with his fellow cadets before answering. "No technology, sir. Just understanding how materials behave in different environments." The commander studied Marcus with sharp interest. "You're the human cadet. Your species is noted for unusual problem-solving approaches. Explain your methodology." Over the next hour, Marcus guided the rescue team through their settlement, explaining each innovation. The commander's skepticism gradually gave way to professional admiration as the elegant simplicity of the human solutions became apparent. "The load-bearing calculations for this bone framework," Dr. Silwyn muttered while examining the structural joints. "How did you determine the stress tolerances without computational analysis?" "Humans have been building with natural materials for thousands of years," Marcus explained. "We developed intuitive understanding of structural principles long before we had the mathematics to prove why they worked." Zixtha proudly demonstrated the fiber-weaving techniques she had learned, her 4 arms creating complex patterns that the rescue team's equipment could barely analyze. "Marcus taught us to see materials not just as they are, but as they could become when properly combined." Commander Thexvar was particularly impressed by the water collection system. "This could revolutionize emergency survival protocols across the galaxy. Many worlds have similar desert environments that are currently considered uninhabitable." "The Academy should definitely study these techniques," agreed Veltar. Our species has become so dependent on technology that we've forgotten simpler solutions often work better. As the rescue team prepared to evacuate the cadets, something unexpected happened. Several of the alien students expressed reluctance to leave their desert settlement. "Sir," Krath spoke up, his tentacles gesturing toward the structures they had built. "We've learned valuable skills here. Couldn't we document these techniques before abandoning everything?" Dr. Silwyn nodded enthusiastically. "The scientific value alone justifies an extended study period. These survival methods could benefit the entire galactic community." Commander Thexvar considered the request carefully. "The Academy did authorize me to conduct a thorough investigation of your survival methods. I suppose a few additional days for proper documentation would be acceptable." Marcus smiled at his fellow cadet's enthusiasm. "You know, there's still a lot more I could teach you about living in harmony with natural environments." The next 3 days transformed into an intensive field study. The rescue team worked alongside the cadets to document every aspect of their survival techniques. Dr. Silwyn was particularly fascinated by the way Marcus had identified edible plants and created tools from seemingly useless materials. "Your species possesses remarkable adaptability," she observed, while watching Marcus demonstrate how to create cutting implements from specially prepared bone fragments. "Most civilizations specialize in narrow environmental niches. Humans seem capable of thriving anywhere." "We had to learn," Marcus replied simply. "Earth forced us to adapt or die. Every continent had different challenges, different resources. We survived by being flexible." Zixtha had become quite skilled at the fiber-weaving techniques, her additional arms giving her advantages that impressed even Marcus. "I want to take these skills back to Altair Prime," she announced. "Our industrial cities could benefit from understanding natural construction methods." Grok had discovered that his rocky skin made him excellent at working with stone tools and bone shaping. "My people build with metal and concrete," he rumbled thoughtfully. "But this feels more honest somehow, more connected to the environment." Even Veltar, despite his technological background, had developed appreciation for the elegant simplicity of their desert home. "Perhaps our civilizations have become too separated from the natural world," he mused. "There's wisdom in understanding how to survive with minimal resources." The rescue operation that had begun as a simple evacuation evolved into something much more significant. Commander Thexvar realized he was witnessing the emergence of new survival doctrines that could benefit the entire Galactic Defense Academy. "Cadet Marcus," he announced on their final day, "the Academy will be very interested in incorporating your species' survival knowledge into our training programs. Would you be willing to develop a new curriculum?" Marcus looked around at his fellow cadets, who had transformed from helpless crash survivors into confident desert dwellers. "I'd be honored, sir. But these aren't just human techniques anymore. Everyone here contributed to refining and improving them. Then we'll call it the Zerion 7 Survival Protocol," the commander decided. "A joint development by the entire cadet class." As they finally prepared to leave their cactus and bone settlement, the cadets took one last look at what they had accomplished. In less than a week, they had created a thriving community from nothing but desert materials and human ingenuity. "Will anyone else ever find this place?" Zixtha asked sadly. "The Academy will maintain it as a training station," Commander Thexvar assured her. "Future cadets will come here to learn the survival skills you've developed." As their rescue ship lifted off from the desert surface, Marcus watched their settlement grow smaller through the viewport. The structures they had built with their own hands stood as proof that intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability could overcome seemingly impossible challenges. "Human Marcus," Grok said thoughtfully, "your species may be new to galactic civilization, but you bring something unique. You remind us that advanced technology doesn't replace fundamental survival skills." "Every species has something valuable to contribute," Marcus replied. Humans just happen to be good at making do with what we have. Veltar's wings buzzed with amusement. Making do? You turned a death sentence into a comfortable home. I think that qualifies as more than just making do. As they traveled back toward civilization, the cadets shared their experiences and planned how they would integrate their new knowledge into their studies. The crash that had seemed like a disaster had become an education none of them would forget. In the Academy's official records, the incident would be noted as the Zerion 7 survival success, a landmark case study in adaptive problem-solving and interspecies cooperation. But for the cadets who lived through it, it would always be remembered as the time a human taught them that sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones. The desert below continued its ancient cycles of heat and cold, but now it held structures that proved intelligence and determination could thrive anywhere in the galaxy. The galactic community had learned an important lesson from humanity, that survival isn't about having the best technology, but about understanding how to work with whatever environment you find yourself in. Marcus Chen, the human cadet who had turned Cactus and Bones into life-saving shelter, had earned his place not just in the Academy, but in galactic history. His species' gift for adaptation had shown the way forward for all spacefaring civilizations, proving that sometimes the newest members of a community have the most important lessons to teach.